The entire world mourning the loss of an irreplaceable icon as our greatest ally embarks on a new era under a new king. Queen Elizabeth II resting in eternal peace after passing away at the age of 96. Tributes have been pouring in from dignitaries and fans across the globe as thousands of Brits descended upon Buckingham Palace to pay their respects. Her life was nothing short of incredible. She reigned through 15 prime ministers, the first being Winston Churchill, and through 14 different U.S. presidencies, spanning nearly 30% of U.S. history. King Charles III starting his first full day on the throne by greeting mourners at Buckingham Palace and consoling his nation with this extraordinary and moving speech.
My beloved mother was an inspiration, an example to me and to all my family. And we owe her the most heartfelt debt any family could owe to their mother. Queen Elizabeth was a life well lived, a promise with destiny kept, and she is mourned most deeply in her passing. I shall endeavor to serve you with loyalty, respect, and love, as I have throughout my life. William now assumes the Scottish titles, which have meant so much to me. I want also to express my love for Harry and Meghan as they continue to build their lives overseas. And to my darling Mama, thank you. Thank you for your love and devotion to our family and to the family of nations.
Piers Morgan will be joining us in a second, so until he does, let's take it around the table. I have to tell you, Jessica, I was really impressed with that speech, with the tone, with the gravitas that I heard in his voice, with the sadness. I thought he was phenomenal.
I thought he was really good, too, and I kept thinking through the whole thing, having recently lost a parent, that I was just a complete mess the day after. Think about if you wake up the day after you lose a parent and you have to become king or queen and you have to go and console millions of people. I mean, the second that the reports came out that, you know, she was under medical supervision, they started coming down to Buckingham Palace, and I've been there for events like that. The Brits, they will stay, and they love their monarchs, and they want to see them, and his ability to go out and to connect with people at such a tough moment, I really thought it was so impressive.
Well, and you know, Sean, it really is a testament to his mother. I mean, you know, he has been in the shadow of his mother for many years. I mean, it's unusual to become king at 73. But we have Piers Morgan joining us. Piers, are you there? Thank you so much for joining us, Piers. And I,
yes, I can. Thank you.
I, along with everyone at the table, offer our sympathies to you. I heard you throughout the day today talking about your relationship with the royal family, and we thank you very much for being here. So we're going to go around the table, but I'd like to start with something, Piers, if I might, and it has to do with King Charles's statement about referring to Camilla as the Queen Consort, as the Queen Elizabeth indicated, and then talking about Kate and William as the Prince and Princess of Wales, and then, of course, going to Harry and Meghan, not referring to them as the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, just saying, and Harry and Meghan, you know, my love to you as you continue to build your lives in another country. Can you translate that?
Well, yes, I think I can. It's very clear to me that what the new King, Charles III, was saying was that William is his eldest son and heir, and he will have a lot of titles, including Prince of Wales, and he is very much the future along his side of this new slimmed-down monarchy. And he has another son called Harry. He didn't give him his title. And Harry has this wife called Meghan. And, all right, he said he used the word love, but they're building their life outside in another country. And I think that beneath all this, there was a pretty clear message from Charles that he's getting a bit fed up with this rival royal family based in California, spray gunning the royals and the monarchy whenever it suits them for huge personal enrichment from companies like Netflix and Spotify. And I think he's saying, look, the future of this monarchy under me, for now, is going to be William and his family, who have been impeccably behaved while all this nonsense has been going on. And, you know, they say, don't they, that events like this very traumatic event for this country, I have to say, a lot of emotion in Britain right now about losing this remarkable woman after 70 years. But they say that for families, that these kind of seismic events can either pull people together or make things 10 times worse. I'm seeing no sign other than it's got a lot worse. Harry went up to Balmoral on his own. I was told that Meghan Markle was going to go with him, and that plan was stopped by people up in Scotland. And Harry left at about 8 o'clock in the morning. I didn't even stay for breakfast with his family. He's been at Frogmore Cottage in Windsor, literally half a mile from his brother, and they were once so close, as we know. He didn't even say hello to him. They didn't meet, didn't say hello. There's the most gigantic rift now at the very heart of our new monarch. Charles is distraught. He's incredibly hurt by what's been happening with his son and his daughter-in-law. And so he's putting all his chips on William, and I think that's the right thing to do. If I were him, I'd go further. I would strip Meghan and Harry of all their titles. Period. Done.
Well,
take them away.
Yeah, I guess next to Dana. Do you have a question?
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously, and Piers, that could happen. I understand that he does have plans, and he's obviously had a lot of time to think about things he would want to do with the monarchy. I wanted to ask you about the Commonwealth overall. Do you think that it can hold together, or will there be moves to leave the Commonwealth? If I were a smaller country, I would want to stay within it. But you think about the challenges that Prince William and Kate had on their recent trip over the summer, these questions about the colonizers, right?
Yeah.
And it was really rough. And I wonder if you think that there might be some movement there.
Well, look, there were some pretty disgusting things that have been said, I have to say, across the pond by various so-called academics and journalists on this very theme, blaming Queen Elizabeth for effectively all the sins of the British Empire and all colonisation and so on. Completely outrageous, given she was the one that led, of course, us out of all that. I think it's a very good question. I think most of the countries remaining in the Commonwealth want to stay in, but there have been murmurings amongst some. And I think it will be down to Prince Charles, or King Charles III now, and the Prince of Wales, his son William. They're going to have to try and navigate some pretty tricky waters. They can't just go back to the old tried and tested, turn up in your white suit looking colonial in an open-top Jeep and hope for the best. That's not going to fly anymore. So they're going to have to be, I think, smarter about the way they go about it. But again, I come back, I'm afraid, to Meghan Markle and Harry. If they keep chucking mud at the royal family, if he keeps spray gunning the monarchy as an institution, if they keep saying that they're a bunch of callous racists, that is going to cause a lot of damage, as it has been, in the Commonwealth. There's this book coming,
right.
Prince Harry's supposed tell-all memoir, in which I'm told he's planning to take down Camilla, for example, who's now the Queen Consort. Where does this end? This is a family at war. And I think the future of the monarchy and the Commonwealth is very contingent on how much damage these two continue to want to do to it.
Okay, Sean?
Yeah, Piers, it's important at a time like this. You try to unify your family. You've indicated, listen, this family is getting torn apart. But to unify, Prince Charles said, listen, I'm not going to be involved in politics. I'm going to be apolitical. But as we all know, King Charles has been a climate activist for much of his life. Do you see him actually giving up the climate activism for the apolitical role, especially with the damage that climate policies have caused in Europe?
Well, I'm told that he's very keen, now that he's the monarch, to not continue behaving in the way he did as Prince of Wales. He felt that being the Prince of Wales gave him licence to express opinions, to write to government ministers, to make his feelings clear about issues like climate change. But I've been told by people very close to him that he's determined, now he's monarch, to pivot into a completely non-partisan, non-polarising, inclusive style that his mother had. But it's difficult, isn't it? If you're so well known for having these strong views about issues like climate change and so on, can we really expect him in his weekly meeting with the Prime Minister, who's now Liz Truss as of this week, Can we expect him to keep quiet? Is he going to be applying some soft power pressure in those weekly meetings? I think he's going to find it very hard, because this is a guy who has repeatedly written to government ministers in his famous spidery writing, haranguing them about things like climate change. So I think it's going to be very interesting to watch, because he can't really afford, I don't think, to continue behaving the way he has done when it comes to hot-button issues and politics. The beauty of the Queen's reign, we never knew what she thought about anything. She didn't tell us. She was just there as this overseeing, non-partisan figurehead, and she was incredibly popular and respected. The moment you start dipping your fingers into politics as a monarch, I think you're heading into big trouble.
All right, Piers. Now we have one more with Greg Gutfeld.
Hi, Piers. Hope you're doing well out there. There are a lot of people here in the United States that are like me and find royalty an unfamiliar phenomenon. So I'm going to ask you a dumb question, which is, how do you explain the role of the monarchy now to people who aren't familiar with it? And since you've lived in America, what in America comes close to fulfilling that role? And could it be something like the Five?
Well, the nearest... I was about to say, Greg, that I keep reading that you are now the king of late-night TV.
That's
so,
true.
in a way, the American monarchy now rests on your shoulders. You are the king.
Thank you.
And we all are all lucky and feel fortunate to be your loyal subjects. No, look, I think what is the point of it? I was once asked by an American journalist, what is the point of a monarchy? And I said, look, the whole point is there's not really a point. They're not elected officials. What did the Queen do that made her so beloved and so popular, and why do we feel so grief-stricken she's gone? And I would explain it to Americans like this. You have presidents who come and go. Some are good, some are bad. None of them last more than 8 years. And then you move on and you invest all your emotion and time into a new family, a new president. We've invested all our time and emotion for my entire lifetime in one woman and her family. And she's barely put a foot wrong in 70 years. I can't think of a president or prime minister who's gone 7 minutes without putting a foot wrong. So this woman was exceptional. And what she stood for are the kind of old-fashioned values which I think are missing in society today. She never played the victim. She never felt sorry for herself. It was never about her. She wasn't arrogant. She was humble. She believed in stoicism and resilience, mental strength, duty, service to her country. And I think it was that which made Britain great and which we've sadly lost in recent times. That's what she stood for. And I think if you had a figure like that, look, personally, I think it was a great shame you got rid of the monarchy from America, because King Piers has a great ring to it. However, you made that decision. You've tried to move on. You now have King Greg. It's not quite the same ring. Doesn't sound quite as posh. But I think she brought stability, and she was there as a kind of comfort blanket in difficult times and someone to share celebration in good times. And I don't think we realised quite how big a deal she was to all of us individually until we lost her. And I've got to say, it feels like we've lost the kind of nation's grandmother. And imagine the most beloved president you've ever had, who'd been there for 70 years and never put a foot wrong, and then they die. That's what it feels like for us. So what's the point of a monarchy? The Queen was the point, because she's the most beloved public figure in the world, and God bless her.
All right, Piers. Maybe you can convey to your countrymen how many Americans feel the impact of the Queen's death as well. I mean, she was not a queen in this country, but so many of us respected and idolized her for all of the reasons that you just mentioned. Piers, thanks so much for being with us. And, of course, you can catch Piers Morgan uncensored on Fox Nation.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.